Hello and welcome to the channel. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing grieving yourself within recovery and the role grieving plays in ensuring your success in recovery. And not only success in staying true to your intentions to have a healthier life, but success in achieving greater things like peace of mind and honing in on a vision that you have for yourself. So for those of you new here, my name is Lee, and I guide others in ensuring their way through the challenges and inspirations of recovery. And for today's topic, I'm going to share with you the 5 steps in grieving yourself. And I believe that this should be helpful for you to work through some of the pain of past events and shift your focus to achieving things that you want for yourself. So say hello and give a thumbs up if you're interested in exploring an approach to grieving yourself. So what does grieving yourself mean? And of course it is unique for everyone, but typically it means that we explore practices that move us into a place where we can accept the past circumstances so that we can live among the present without the shame and regrets and hopefully move into a future with some confidence and focus. In the process to realize and work through the layers of this grieving ourselves, it's not easy, but it works well with commitment to yourself. And with some guidance, you can navigate grieving yourself and become your own coach in this journey. And it's important to form these fortifying mindsets because so often many of us in recovery or in that transition phase where we have quit past destructive behaviors, we find ourselves still focusing on our unpleasant past. And we spend a lot of time dwelling on how bad we were or how bad we messed up. Or on another given moment, we're enjoying the accomplishments we've made and we're feeling great. And so we should. Yet among these better feelings, we tend to abandon the past version of ourselves. And either way, we can find ourselves dwelling in the past or running from it. And both of these are consequences of not taking the time to truly face our lives and grieve ourselves among those circumstances back then. So think of grieving yourself as being significant for you to move away from pain and doubts and bring ease and achievements into your life. So in order to do this, we need to take time and make a plan and become aware to form the rituals to grieve. And the first step to grieve yourself is to admit that living among regrets of your past behaviors is hurtful. And I bet you're thinking, tell me something that I don't know. Because I know that's what I thought when it was presented to me that way. Because it's so obvious that regrets of past behaviors is painful. But it's very important to realize that the hurt isn't only the pain and the remorse we feel. The hurtful is also being stuck in what we did and allowing our present to be occupied by events that we cannot change. So it's not just the feelings of hurt, it's the consequences of our focus that is hurtful within our lives. And this is the first step of grieving yourself, the obvious acknowledgement of the past continuing to harm the present. So to make some practical sense out of this, every time you find yourself beating yourself up, feeling shame or defeated or whatever gnawing feelings that come with believing how bad you made things, stop and say, my past actions in the present moment continues to hurt me. And say those exact words. My past actions in the present moment continues to hurt me. And by doing this, you are blatantly taking the time and energy from the past and plunking that focus into the present mindset where it is now within your control to acknowledge and address. And this is the birth of grieving, taking present action to alleviate past events. So get into the habit of saying this when you're feeling stuck. Simply acknowledge this truth that your past actions in the present moment is hurtful. And believe me, I know that this step seems simple and easy and obvious, but there is a lot of bitterness to swallow in the effort it will take to stop and affirm that aspects of the past are still alive and kicking in the present. but your ability to redirect that focus is equally a reality in the present. So let's continue to ground ourselves in the present, and the next step to grieve yourself is to take a tally of what is working in your present life. And you don't need a lot of time or journaling material or a certain place to set up. You can do this in any moment by literally stopping to take a look around and point at the physical evidence of your progress. And make note of what has improved since your transitions away from past harming behaviors. And be careful and be good to yourself, because all of these steps are about progress. So skip over the things that you're not happy with. Those heavy reminders of the past, they are a given. And it's very important to start to train your brain to stick to the grieving program and to stay focused on your goal to bring ease into your life. So as you look around, start with the small and obvious improvements. And I'm going to use myself as an example. And it was a counselor after a rehab that pointed this out to me. And he said, when you feel like you'll never get out of the hole you dug, which is not only a troubling place to be in, it is also relapse territory. He told me to start by holding my hand in front of my face. Now, I had an alcohol addiction. So what does my steady hand in front of my face tell me? Well, I can look at it and I know I'm not wavering, so I'm not under the influence. I'm not shaking, so I'm not physically withdrawing. And this hand can reach for a drink, and there will be no booze in that drink. So when you look around for your signs of your progress, pick the obvious, quick, and accurate observations. And this is essentially step 2. So think about the differences that you are literally noticing right now. Perhaps it's the fact that you are sitting down, taking time to work on yourself. Take the first thing you see and acknowledge it. And pick one thing that is a positive change from the past that indicates your progress. And then pick another. And so begins the tally of what is working for you in your present life. And this does a couple of things for your recovery and your self-discovery. Number 1, it confirms that change is possible. And once again, yes, we are stating the obvious, but when we find ourselves dwelling in the past or running from the past, a good accurate shot of reality, like acknowledging a small positive change, can break the headspace. It also confirms that by participating in these types of actions that you are willing to work towards your goals and that you have already worked towards your goals. So there's not a lot of trickery in this step. And in this practice of observing the positive changes in the here and now, it mentally moves us away from the past and the damage is done. And moving on and accepting that that was then and this is now is grieving. And another step in grieving yourself is to admit that you can no longer give attention to what your current situation could have been. And this is similar to thinking about the one that got away, or thinking similar to that, or the position that you may have had, or how things could have been better. And this is common in recovery or in living among memories of the past, to have these fantasies of what could have been. It's very human, but it's also very grueling, and it's destructive to progress. And there is no factual foundation of what could have been, because really it is a fact that even if you were on your best behaviors in the past, that's not a guarantee that things would be amazing and wonderful right now. So when you find yourself running from reality into what could have been, make it a rule to catch yourself every chance you have and replace those thoughts with an intention that you have for yourself. In other words, think of a fact of something that you would like to achieve. And this grounds us in the reality of the here and now. And it's extremely important for that intention to replace the thoughts of, oh, I could have been doing this today if I hadn't messed up. That thinking pattern was typical for me and for those that I guide in recovery and others, and likely yourself as well. And I really want to point out that this is crucial for us to focus on not what we could have been doing, but to focus on what we are actually doing. Because by saying it could have been this way, you are not paying attention to the way it is. And if the way it is on a particular day demands focus on staying true to the goals you have, like keeping yourself out of harm's way, and your focus is elsewhere, it's a potential relapse. Or it's at the very least a setup for being miserable in your moments. So no more what could have been. It's all about what is. And commit yourself to this goal. Anytime you're feeling things could have been better, stop. Take a big deep breath in, which is nothing new or earth-shattering. It's just breathing is something we sometimes neglect in times of need. And with this breath, deliberately divert yourself from what didn't happen and focus on what is and what you would like to happen, which is a possibility since you've already changed some habits. And this is accepting the present as it is. And this is a part of grieving. The fourth step in grieving yourself is you need to treat yourself the way you treat a loved one. And this means to speak to yourself with compassion during the challenging times and congratulate yourself during the confident times. And this allows you to open the doors to be accepting of yourself the way that you are with others that you care about. And this isn't easy. When we talk to ourselves, particularly regarding the past, we're angry, we're ashamed. Typically, we don't like the way we behaved, and fair enough. But literally make a habit when you find yourself beating yourself up about the past. Acknowledge the fact that the same person, meaning you, progressed to this moment. And give credit where it is rightfully due. And show some appreciation for yourself the way you would admire about a loved one. And make that a habit to redirect that self-bashing. And you want to transition into that mindset. And remember that grieving takes effort and it needs to be forced on occasion. And all of these steps require attention and respect to detail. And in that habit of compassion building, you need to also tell yourself the past you is the same you without the growth you have now. And use these exact words. The past me is the same me without the experience I have now. And once again, stating the obvious, but it's true. And it's important to begin to embed yourself with the shift towards compassion for yourself. And in that very simple and down-to-earth language, like you were talking to a friend, tell yourself, I didn't know better, or I didn't have the resources, or I didn't have the will. Whatever the words represent, what you didn't have available back then that you do now, tell them to yourself. And that's compassion, and that's acceptance, and that's grieving. And just to make things a bit complicated, but an important word of caution with a strong relation to relapse, be aware that when you are telling yourself that was the past and believing or tricking yourself into thinking that that was the old you, here's the alert. That is the same you, but in different circumstances. And believing that you are not the same person is a red flag to relapse. And I have an episode, Red Flags in Recovery, where it is further explored, and I will include that in the link below. So to further grieve and develop compassion, you need to salute yourself for making changes and wanting to ensure those changes stay in place for you. So celebrate your progressing actions every chance you can and extend the compassion when you can't. And the fifth step in grieving yourself, and likely not final, but the final step for this episode, is to practice. Practice steps 1 through 4 and repeat and blend and embrace and accept and relate and repeat. And speaking of repeat, you will hear me say practice often in most of my episodes. All of these layers of recovery from harming patterns require time and finesse from you. And grieving yourself is a lot, and it doesn't happen overnight. But with a planned approach to grieving yourself, you can wade through the layers and design the approach that works for you. And you can also enjoy knowing that you are continuing to make better choices for yourself. And little by little, the layers of recovery and self-discovery will be realized, just as some of them have likely been realized now. But we need to do the work, and you are able to do the work. So to further help you with this project, download the Grieve Me guide. The link is below. And let this be your sidekick to keep you moving towards the journey to grieve yourself. I specifically designed this workbook to help you explore yourself and provide tips and tools and exercises for each of these steps. So let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below, if it makes sense, and perhaps you have another step or an insight that you would like to share. And be sure to subscribe for weekly reminders of guidance and pass it along to others that could use some adjusting to help bring ease and achievements into their lives. And if you want more for you and more on me, or more on how I can possibly guide you further in your discoveries, go to my website, recoverywithlee.com, and be sure to see me on Instagram and join the Facebook group, and all of the links are below. So, you've come this far, and keep following through with your intentions, and grab your Grieve Me guide and take the very best care and awareness, and we will see you soon.